Just studying again up here, if someone does have a WorkPro profile, like I've just mentioned, and they've provided you with their candidate identification number or SIN, you will enter that SIN up here. You will enter the person's surname, and you will click to search. Here, background check. You can see the status of all Kerry's background checks, her induction modules, licenses, tickets, and documents. If you need Kerry to then do anything further, depending on what the outcome of these searches are, then you can simply click New Request, click the tasks that need to be completed. Kerry's information is pre-populated here, and you'd be sending the request. So that's the first little shortcut. If Kerry hasn't done WorkPro, then of course you'll just click plus request. Once Kerry has completed all her requirements, or you're trying to find someone in your WorkPro experience, you found someone who is not yet associated with your account. Now you might want to find someone who is associated with your account. And the best way to do that, I'm sorry, excuse me. Oh yeah, thanks Anita. The best way to do that is through the filter button. So if you own multiple accounts in WorkPro, or you have multiple sites, you'd be dropping down this list, and you might be choosing a certain site that you want to find a candidate. Or you can simply enter the candidate's name here, first name, surname, and then apply to pull up someone's name. Okay, so using that filtering function, looking across at these other dashboards and other ways that you can use it, I always rely on the filtering function. So the best way to use this dashboard is you're either sending someone a request, you're finding someone in the dashboard, and then you're viewing and verifying information, which we talk about in other webinars. But in using this filtering function, let's say, okay, I want to find someone, you need to find someone that is going to be working, he's going to be a forklift operator. So if that's the case, you want to say, I need to find someone who has completed the forklift safety module, who has a forklift license and has the rights to work in Australia. So using the dashboard to do that, or using the filtering function to do that, let's say, okay, let's find someone who has completed forklift. So you're doing a search here. Then under background checks, you're saying, okay, I need to find someone who has the rights to work in Australia, or a non-Australian citizen whose results are finalised and they've got either limited or unlimited rights to work in Australia. You're doing multiple searches here, and of course they must hold an elevated work platform licence as an example, and applying that filter. Now I'm quite sure, there's no results found here, but the bottom line is, depending on the level of filtering that you need, WorkPro has the capacity to, at a very high level, do searches for you, or a really granular level, depending on what you're trying to find. So moving back into the filtering function, you might be saying, well, actually, I need to make sure that everybody that I've checked who has rights to work in Australia, I want to make sure that I'm on top of that. So coming into background checks, you might say, okay, I'll use the filtering function to say, of the people that that are employed by us, I want to have a look at, just check those non-Australian citizens whose checks have been finalised, whose check is expiring in the next 30 days, and applying that. So if there was results there, that would be pre-populated, showing in the dashboard here. Then if you needed to do a recheck of a Vivo, using the Actions tab over here, you're saying, I need to do a bulk Vivo recheck. So that's a good way to streamline and shortcut how to continue to monitor people's rights to work in Australia, and make sure that you're continuing to check on people. So I think I've exhausted the filtering function. Very easy to use. You can use it for one filter, you can use it to find a certain candidate, or you can do multiple searches using that filtering function. So moving away from that now, anything that you do filter, the little button here is to export any data that you've filtered on or conducted a search on. So then moving up to some views. So it might be that you want to store some views. You want to save some views of some workers some office workers as an example, or you might want to create a view of all of your forklift operators if that's where you operate. So once you've used that filtering function and you've found those people, and you want that to be a permanent view. So every time you log back into WorkPro, you want to be able to click on a view and just show those workers and their information rather than shuffling through the filtering function again. So once you've applied your filter, you can come up here to the view button. You can create that view here. You can save that view. And then every time you log back into WorkPro, let's just say you've saved the view as forklift operators, you're simply clicking that down and you'll see forklift operators or forklift workers in your list. You can just simply click on that and up will pop your view of forklift workers. So you can have as many views as you need in WorkPro. One way that our clients do use that function is if a candidate, when you've offboarded a candidate and they're no longer working for you and therefore you don't want to see them on the dashboard, and you can see here, I've got one called Archived Candidates. I click that. You can now see all of these workers and you can see them archived. You can also restore an archived worker. You can also move people out of views. All right, so that's a quick little one for you, just depending on what views you want to look at inside WorkPro. Coming up to actions. So you can see there's a whole bunch of actions here. So I'm just going to very quickly jump over these. Manage document types and creating candidate groups. So managing document types. I don't know if any of you are using this function in WorkPro that is asking people to upload certain documents that are defined by you so that you can monitor them in our system. You have to define the document first. So in order to do that, you would click on Manage Document Type, add one, define your document. Once I've saved that, then it logs into and says, what do you want to store about this document? You've called this a first aid certificate. Do you want to store the expiry date of this first aid certificate? Would you like, do you want to make it mandatory that they upload a copy of that first aid certificate? Now, document management is covered in another webinar, but I thought I'd just briefly mentioned it here. That's how you manage document type. Managing candidate groups. You can see here that I've got bunches of groups. So very similar to what I've just talked about with the forklift operators, you can create a group and you can place people in groups. So if you have stores workers, forklift operators, or transport operators as an example in your workforce, you can create 3 groups and you can associate candidates with those groups. So adding a group, you can see here there's some predefined ones here. Once you've defined your group, this little guy here represents a group. So for Abigail Chambers, I click on this and say, actually, I want her to be in a subcontractors group and I want her to be in my Queensland group. I'll just click those and you can see she's now in 2 groups. Then you can create a view. So she's in 2 groups and I've created a view called whatever that group is. And now I'm just asking the dashboard to display those people in a certain group in a certain way. Let me just take those off. And now you can take those off as well. There's no save button. In the Actions tab, you can see here that you can send a request, you can create packages, you can track your requests. You can see all of these little tasks or these actions can be taken by just clicking on the Actions tab. Everything that you do in this dashboard can also be filtered. Can be exported. So once you've created a filter or you've dropped down and you've seen a view of a certain types of workers, you can also export that to a CSV so that you can filter any further outside of the WorkPro environment. That really does conclude today's webinar on how to use the dashboard effectively. I may have glossed over some things, so if you do have any questions, 1300 975 776. You can also contact your account manager directly or send an email to info@workpro.com.au. Thanks so much for attending. Thanks for letting me know that you weren't able to see this webinar this morning, and I will catch you next time. Thanks.